probably not really gonna like this so much, but oh. This is the preamble when I've asked someone what new supplements they might be taking, and my patient wants to tell me, but they don't know how reputable this new product that they found on TikTok Shop or Instagram is, and so they're a little bit nervous to let me know what new thing is that they've started using. Even at parties, when folks find out what it is that I do, they will share some late night social media wellness purchase that they made at 12 a.m. when they couldn't sleep and were scrolling through Instagram. The next question I get from folks is, do you think it's legit? Do you think it's worth taking? And the answer is sometimes yes, sometimes no. I have to look at it first before I can come to a decision. So in this video, you're gonna learn how to tell if any particular product is in fact a scam or if it's worth taking. How do you spot a reputable product? What are the red flags that you need to look out for so that you can see the exact process that I use to determine if a product is worthwhile? Welcome back to Ponder and Practice, where it is my goal to help you live a life that you are looking forward to waking up to. And part of this is knowing what questions to ask so that you can make informed decisions for yourself. If you have seen a few videos before and you are not yet subscribed, please do hit that subscribe button. I would be much obliged. I have what feels like a very modest, exceptionally modest goal of getting to 50 subscribers by the end of March, and I would really appreciate it. And if you get through this video and you enjoy the content, let me know down below. I've been trialing a few different types of content. I'm trying to figure out what direction to sort of narrow things down in. So if this is the direction that you like, I'd love to hear from you. Because I am a naturopathic doctor and I do use quite a few supplements with folks, it is reasonable that people would ask me, is this legit or not? So there are a few questions that I'll always ask when we're looking at a product, thinking about, does this make sense or does it not make sense? Some of these are a little bit easier for me to answer because I have the background in herbal medicine. I was trained as an herbalist before I became a naturopathic doctor, and plus I have the whole, naturopathic doctor training. You may need to dig in and do a little bit of research about these things, but it absolutely can be done, and if in doubt, don't take it. It's better to be safe than sorry, plus you'll probably save a few bucks anyway. So the first question that I always ask is this too good to be true? Are the claims just really outlandish? Like, it would be so awesome if you could lose 20 pounds in a week. And this is, quite frankly, absurd. It's not going to happen. It doesn't make sense. Or maybe there's a promise that it's going to absolutely eliminate all of the chronic pain in one treatment, just one treatment, and you're going to feel like you did when you were 20. Oh my gosh, you're going to bounce up and be able to run 20 miles at a time. This is absurd. Or maybe you're going to have a genius level IQ with this particular supplement. Okay, sure, maybe you'll be a little bit more thoughtful, maybe your clarity will go up a little bit, but I doubt that you're going to rack up a whole bunch of IQ points with a supplement. It's just not going to happen. Good marketing exists because it works. We want to believe the outlandish claims. When we buy into a product, we are buying into the version of ourselves we think that that product will create. We're buying into the version of ourselves that is totally jacked, the version of ourselves that is super svelte and fit, that can run 20 miles in a go. We're buying into the version of ourselves that is really smart and thoughtful and quick-witted and super clear. Notice when you're getting pulled into this marketing and always ask yourself, is this too good to be true? Because, as they say, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. In my experience, meaningful health changes, and not total transformations, but meaningful incremental health changes typically take about 3 months to see solid progress. The second question I ask is, does the cost make sense for what this is? Now, you may need to do some extra legwork and research here to see what the market rate of something is if you're unfamiliar with the ingredients that it has. And this is really important because if something is known to be more expensive, and this could be for any number of reasons, it could be because something is a little bit more rare, it could be because the harvesting process is really extensive or difficult to do, it could be because there is specific processing that needs to be done that's sort of expensive. So if you see something that we would expect to be costing more money that is selling for dirt cheap, you're probably not getting what that thing is. You're probably getting an adulterated version of that, or a fake version of that is another way to say that. So by way of example, we can take a look at saffron. I will put a picture on the screen for you so you can see what it looks like. It's really beautiful. Saffron are the red threads from the crocus flower. And there's some really great research focusing on saffron for depression, and it has some good evidence behind it that it works pretty well. But as you might imagine, looking at the photo, it takes some precision and care to harvest. This isn't something that a machine can just sweep through and gather all of it. You need folks to kind of be pulling those threads out. So the MSRP of saffron-containing supplements, when I looked it up, ranges anywhere from $35 to $65 for a 30-day supply. The variance here we're seeing is because different supplements have different formulas that they're using. They may have different amounts of saffron in there. They may put it together with other less expensive ingredients, and so that can account for that differential in cost. So if you're seeing a medicinal saffron product that's about $15, unless it's a really small amount or like a 14-day supply, it's really important to be questioning the validity of that product if they're claiming that there's a significant amount of saffron in that product. The next question that I ask is, does the mechanism make sense? Now, again, this is something that you may not know how to answer, and so it's good to talk to somebody who does know the answer to this question. But you can do a lot of research online and come up with some pretty reasonable information. And so sometimes folks will bring up products and I'm like, this just doesn't make sense here. The mechanism doesn't make sense. And so there is one particular company, they share that they are like phototherapy patches or like they're light therapy patches. And there's some really great research that looks into bright light therapy for things like seasonal affective disorder or red light therapy for skin health. Have not looked into, but I've heard about green light therapy for migraine treatment as well. But you have to have the light. You have to have a source of light. It's not just ambient light ambient light does have benefits, but when we're talking about a therapeutic effect, it's different. You can't just expect like, oh, it's just going to magically show up and be there and that'll be helpful. So these phototherapy patches, story that they tell is that the patches reflect the light back into your body, and so that's where the therapeutic effect comes from. And my question is, if that's the case, why not just wrap myself up in aluminum foil? Shouldn't that reflect some light back into my body? I don't know. Much less expensive, I'll tell you that. It's important to keep in mind placebo is real. The mind is a very powerful thing, and I don't deny there are folks who have found benefit from all kinds of products out there, whatever it is, the mechanism that they're claiming. But it's important to think about, because if you're thinking about using a patented wellness technology that, quote, elevates the flow of your body's innate energy and it's more than $100 a month, one, that's a super non-specific claim, but two, that's a lot of money to be shelling out for something that like, is this going to do anything for me? Actually, I don't know. So be aware of these very non-specific science-y, like it sounds maybe that it's science-y sounding claims without clear evidence to back them up. If something is effective, you should be able to, in like everyday language, be able to explain, oh yes, this works because it does this, this, and this. For example, we could talk about ginkgo. Ginkgo improves cognition in part via improving microcirculation throughout the brain. This is measurable. You could also test this via cognitive performance. You could look at somebody before they start taking ginkgo, give them a battery of tests, give them ginkgo for a month or two, and see how their testing comes out after the fact. But if you are claiming that you are elevating the flow of your body's innate energy, how are we measuring that? How do we know that that's what's happening? Is there a subjective measurement that we need to be paying attention to? Is there a particular sensation that I should be paying attention to? Should this burn? Will it tingle? Like, is my arm going to fall off? I don't know. So a sense, unlike subjective improvement, I'm exaggerating obviously, but a sense of subjective improvement is fantastic. But when you have a product that's claiming scientific backing, I want to see why and how. I want to see things like, oh, X% of people who use this had Y% less of whatever symptom, which we measured via these validated measures. So beware if a supplement or product purports to have like quote unquote research, and that research is absolutely silly, sounds pseudoscience-y, or is absolutely inaccessible via their website. That's slick marketing, and move on. It is not a worthwhile product to take a look at. So the fourth question I ask is, what's the quality of manufacture? GMP stands for Good Manufacturing Processes, and this is a set of standards that companies must should abide by through the process of creating whatever product it is that they're creating that folks are ingesting. Now, this requires specific documentation of sourcing, timelines, lot numbers, processes, procedures. How is something going through the complete supply chain from here's our supply that comes in and here's the product that goes out that we ship out. Many reputable companies will have some sort of a nod to GMPs on their website. You can also reach out to companies and ask for more information if you're not seeing that. A few years ago, I reached out to a company selling some glandular products. It was an animal-based glandular product, and I was asking them for more information about testing of their products. Glandulars make me a little bit nervous. I want to make sure that they have been tested and that they're safe. And they gave me a really weird cagey runaround, and so I went the other way and I never thought about the company again to the point that I have forgotten what it was called. There is some nuance here because trade secrets exist for a reason. That's part of what makes a company or a product worthwhile. It has value because only we can make this thing that we can make. There's a reason why the formula for Coke is under lock and key, and very few people have access to that. And at the same time, there should be some standardized processes and procedures that a company can point to and say, oh yeah, we get our product from here and then it goes through this process and this is how we're tracking it from when it comes in to when it leaves. Here are the standards of cleanliness for our factory, etc., etc., etc. I also like to know if folks are doing third-party testing. This is important. Are they doing third-party testing of their product to make sure that what is on the label is what's in the bottle? I work with a platform called FullScript when I recommend supplements to folks, and part of the reason I do this is because FullScript itself will actually pull product and run them through through testing. That's not affiliated with the supplement companies themselves. And so that's really good because then we can see, okay, yes, what's on the label is what's in the bottle, and I know that you're getting what you're paying for. There is a company that I really like that shares their certificate of analysis for their different products on their website, so you can see what the product was, when it was tested, and how that came out. So I do really appreciate that and like that. Third-party testing is important because if you're testing products internally inside the company, one, do you have the folks who know how to do that? Do you have the equipment that knows how to do that? Whereas third-party lab tests are set up to do this kind of testing. Also, it's a conflict of interest. So if I'm testing my own product, I want it to come out saying something very specific, and so I can sort of jigger with things to make them come out the way that I want them to come out. Whereas if I send it off to a company, say, tell me what's in this, they're just going to send back the results because you're paying for that service to be done. The next question that I ask is, what's the risk versus benefit? So if you're looking at a product that has some questionable claims and costs $200 for a month's supply and has some questionable manufacturing standards, that's a high risk in my opinion. You're really likely to be, at best, you're going to be out $200 for nothing. At worst, you're going to have an adverse response because you're getting something that's not what it says that it is, and it could be contaminated or it could be poisonous. We don't know because we don't know what it is. Meanwhile, if you're looking at a product that has some preliminary research behind it, maybe it costs $60 for a month's supply, it has good manufacturing processes that can be demonstrated, this is a low to moderate risk. It may or may not help, but the likelihood that it will hurt is much less. It's also important to consider interactions with any medications that you may be taking. Just because, please, if you take nothing else away, just because something is marketed as all natural does not mean that it's safe. It does not mean that it's safe. It may be safe, but it may not be. And so you need to know how whatever this supplement that you're looking at, whatever this product is that you're looking at, is this going to play nice with whatever else that you're doing or using? Now, we all have different risk tolerance, and that's fine. So if you're okay with a high risk, high reward situation and you want to shell out $200 for something that may or may not work and may be super risky, that's on you to decide. You get to make that decision for yourself. However, if you're somebody who's really struggling to get food on the table, save that $200. You don't need it. You don't need it. I promise you, you do not need it. You don't need it at all. And certainly, of course, this should go without saying, but you do not need to go into debt for supplemental products. You don't. Please don't. The peace of mind alone from not having to deal with credit card payments and exorbitant interest will do so much more for your health, your physical health, and your mental health than any of these products ever could, I assure you. The next piece here isn't really a question so much as something to consider and be aware of for yourself, and this has to do with health anxiety. The folks who I see get the most taken in by the new, shiny, sexy products are folks who are so anxious about their health. They are so terrified that they're going to be sick. They are frightened that they are not doing absolutely everything that they can do to stay well. And then there are also the other folks who I see who may have a lot of health anxiety are folks who have really strong interoception. Interoception refers to someone's ability to be able to sense, have an awareness of what's happening inside of their body. We obviously need some of this. We need to know if we're hungry, if we're thirsty, if we're full, if we're in pain, so we can get out of that situation, all of these kinds of things. It's very important. And for some folks who are overly sensitive to these signals and to these cues, it can feed into some significant health anxiety because they're just feeling absolutely everything that's happening. And most things are fine. It's just your body doing the things that it needs to do. It's kind of like in a house. Houses make noise, they kind of settle. If the temperature changes, they might creak a little bit, this kind of thing. The truth of it, the truth of life, is that we're all fallible. And I hate to break it to you, hopefully this isn't news, but illness comes for us all sooner or later, and so too will death. This is normal, it happens, and as of right now, there's no way to get out of it. Hopefully, of course, this comes later than sooner, we all hope. In the meantime, as we're living our lives, it can be really helpful to stay grounded in the fact that mastering the basics, the foundations of health, are going to do more for you than any supplement ever could. So for example, keeping a regular sleep-wake schedule will really support your cognition and your emotional well-being far more than any supplement ever could. Eating a whole foods-based diet with adequate protein and fiber and fat and cooking at home as much as possible, transitioning away from fast foods and transitioning away from ultra-processed foods. This is going to support your health immensely, right? Far more than any supplement ever could do. Adding in some exercise on a daily basis and building the capacity for movement is more of a panacea for overall health and longevity than any product on the market today. And so if you're someone who has not yet mastered the basics, you don't need extra stuff. Do those things. Start sleeping, adjust your diet incrementally, start small, start moving a little bit more. This is going to make such a big difference, and you don't have to spend loads of money on doing this. Yes, you may have to adjust your budget a little bit for food, but often when folks start paying attention to their diets and cooking at home, they will end up spending less over the long run. It so happens that you have mastered the basics, you're good, you're running, you're lifting weights, you're eating, your chicken and broccoli get so much hate, but like you're eating your chicken and broccoli and rice, or maybe your salmon and your salmon and your seaweed and your rice or whatever it is, and you're looking to make further improvements, by all means, go for it. There are myriad companies that will happily take as much money as you would like to give them. The other piece here is that we all come into situations from time to time where we feel desperate, where we would like the cancer to be fully healed, where we would like for this illness to go away, where we would like for our chronic pain to be gone. And it can feel super desperate. And in those times, I'm mindful of the fact that it's very human to want to reach for anything that could help. Anything that could help. Please let there be just something that will help. And sometimes these things work. Sometimes there are treatments or options or modalities out there that have no evidence. They've never been studied. Nobody's looked at them. They're just kind of laughed off as like, that's quackery. And yet people use these modalities or treatments or tools and see improvements. And so I just wanted to make a nod to that. Sometimes there's like an intuitive, I wonder if this would help me. I'm going to check it out. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. If you have the resources available to do that, and if it's something that is safe, by all means. Miracles can and do occur, certainly. And beware of doing things out of desperation, because desperation can make us do things that we otherwise wouldn't. We would take risks that we otherwise wouldn't. and that can cause some really intense regret after the fact. So, as best you can, be smart as you prioritize the options.